the end. Right? So would you like to share your observations, thoughts in this regard? I'd like to hear from all of you. What do you see? What are the differences? Similarities and differences. Yes, ma'am.
Arjuna had lamentation. He was confused about his duty. He had this compassion towards the living entities, but not really towards the soul. And he gives like 5 reasons why he thinks he should not find the work.
Okay, and as against, so here you see Bhishma, right? What do you see here?
Yeah, Yudhishthira Maharaj had some unease with what happened, and then Lord Krishna decides to go and see Pitama, and then he, even though he is at his deathbed, he tells entire knowledge and pacifies by telling how the center of the universe is Lord Krishna, and so they should not lament.
So how they should not lament? He is explaining, enlightening, making them feel elevated, despite the fact that they want to lose him. Anyone else? Just a contrast. One was a case of anxiety. Yes, of course, Vishada yoga, but in Vishada also there was yoga. And here was in Viraha yoga, there's yoga, but the fact that he's departing is Viraha. But there he is enlightening and creating yoga. Yes, anyone else?
Krishna Pitama is instructing Yudhishthira Maharaj on duties of a king and describing Vishnu Sahasranam. So basically, he's saying that Vishnu's name is the highest in this world, and we should not be lamenting on any other things.
Okay, the entire Vishnu Sahasranam was recited by Bhishma. In terms of similarity, of course, we find a similarity that Krishna is also telling Arjuna, Man manam bhavan bhakto madhya jivam masko. Right? And the difference was that at the beginning, Arjuna's observation was, why should I even fight this war? It's fratricidal war. Despite the fact that Krishna was there guiding Arjuna. Right? Anything else? Anyone else wants to share?
Vishnu Pitamaha, though he is very selfless, he is not on the dharma side. So finally, that's where
Vishnu Pitamaha had very consciously chosen to fight on the side of the Kauravas while being completely adherent to his vows. And to the extent that his vows broke the backs of the entire Pandavas. I mean, it actually, if he decided to withdraw vows, things would have been very different. So, but how is it related to the post-war observations of Bhishma? What you pointed out, that's true. How is it related to the post-war observations of Bhishma?
So maybe Bhishma Pitama is seeing like Arjuna's pre-war observation was warriors and relatives as great as Bhishma Pitama were on the opposite side, and Bhishma Pitama's post-war observation was, though even after the war, Krishna was there before the war on the side of Pandavas, he's still there after the war, course, Pandavas have won the war. So maybe Bhishma Pitama is trying to give that thing out that you are where Krishna is there, of course there is victory. So maybe that point is an observation from Bhishma Pitama's side, and Arjuna's observation is great warriors were on the opposite side.
So-
And one more point, Prabhuji, Krishna lifted the chariot wheel to in Bhishma Dev during the war. So after the war, so the very same Krishna, he is very compassionate because of the self devotion that Bhishma Dev did. So he's still with him. I heard so things about Bhishma Dev. So Krishna said that I'm meditating on Bhishma Dev because he is meditating on me. But still, for Dharma, he lifted the chariot wheel to protect Pandavas or the Dharma. It's not just Pandavas.
Thank you, Mataji, for sharing. Yes.
Hare Krishna. In both the observations, they are talking about the duties as of what positions they are, and they have to be truthful to the duties and without any hesitation, because they have to do their dharma and follow the religion. Because Krishna was there in present, so no need to fear.
Hare Krishna. Yes. Thank you, Maya.
The pre-war Arjuna was speaking about himself, he didn't know. And even though he wanted to fight for Dharma, but he was confused. But on the other hand, Bhishma was, you know that he will manipulate, you know that he is fighting for administration. But still he fought only. Yes, even though it is not the ultimate Dharma, but whatever he considered is should.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all for sharing. Yes.
Like it's Bhishma Dev's character is very, very unique and very wonderful. That I mean, even though he was fighting against Krishna's desire or order, still his devotion never wavered, and that's very wonderful. And the ultimate indication of that is that actually at the time of his death, Krishna personally came very specially. So that his so-called beauty or whatever never mixed or changed his devotion. That shows that his devotion is
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you all for sharing very beautiful perspectives from your own readings and meditation. It's very important to have this kind of manthan. In our ancient Gurukul system, there used to be this talakship where we often take a case study and different devotees, different personalities, based on their journey, their experiences, they would reflect. So this reflection is very helpful. It may, since I've been given this stage, let me also share some of my meditations in this regard. It's very amazing to see how consistent Krishna is. Krishna chastises Arjuna at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Then Anarya Chishtam Swargyam Akirtikaram Arjuna. You're not behaving like Anarya. Now that same Krishna, when Yudhishthira is extremely crestfallen, like Arjuna was crestfallen, Yudhishthira was crestfallen. However, nobody could convince Yudhishthira. Why was Yudhishthira crestfallen? It's like, Arjuna's Gandhi was slipping from his hands. Yudhishthira could not be convinced by anyone. He was weeping and sobbing. Because it's a fact. The colossal loss of lives and the destruction of systems. In some sense Yudhishthira could not reconcile. I am the cause of all of this. And it's explained by Prabhupada that apparently Krishna arranged that he could not convince Yudhishthira. But he took Yudhishthira and the Pandavas to Bhishma. This is the consistency of Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can sometimes teach and can sometimes cost to be taught. It's very important because what for us the value when we have children, when we have someone who needs to be inspired. Do I want to do it, or am I happy being the instrument of being taught? Right? Dhritarashtra tells Krishna that, what did I do wrong? I just wanted to help my sons. I wanted to see them prosper. I wanted to do everything to make them prosperous. Krishna said that is a problem. But you wanted to be the cause. When we want to be the cause, then the problem is the goal might not be achieved, but we may come to the limelight. A simple example I like to give. All of us have seen torch, right? That's why I kept a phone near me. It's not dark here, but let's just pretend, right? If someone's behind or in front of me, right? Let's say behind me. Rather, front is better. Like if I show this torch toward myself, what will everyone see? But if I show the torch like this, what will happen? Who would people see? The road ahead. Will I be seen as prominently? Imagine it is dark. It's all very well lit here, and the sun has not set. By this time, India would have been dark. Right? So I have a choice. What do I want to do? Show the way ahead or show myself? You see the big contrast in how Krishna, in one sense, behaviorally, Krishna is behaving very different. Here he is taking Pandavas to Bhishma. At the beginning of the battlefield, Krishna is like putting his fist down. Mudha, what are you speaking? However, the spirit in both cases is exactly the same. That flexibility that Krishna exhibits, because there is absolute seriousness of purpose. As a Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna is very clear in his purpose, even as Paramatma. He's sitting in everyone's heart. Right? But he's so detached in one sense, but very concerned also. He's detached in the sense that he's making himself available. Right? Who can be a better parent than Krishna? Being available for the child, but not imposing on the child. Being available for the child and being concerned for the child. In fact, even praying for the child. I remember meeting, Radhanath Swami Maharaj in Delhi airport long back. My Guru Maharaj. And I just, sometimes we customarily ask, please pray. I just asked Maharaj, please pray, Maharaj. What should I pray? He asked. I said, please pray that I develop the mood to be humble servant of your servants. And it was surprising. For the next 5 minutes, Maharaj had his hands folded and was praying. I didn't mean the prayer seriously as he prayed, honestly. The next 5 minutes he was praying. That's when it dawned upon me what it means for someone to be a real well-wisher. We can have mitra, suhrit, bandhu. You can have mitra. Somebody can be, a friend. But to be a bandhu, you'll be available all the time, right? Sakheti matva, hey Krishna, hey Yadava, hey Sakheti. Then he says bandhu. I thought you were my friend, but suhrit means that whether you are conscious or not, the other person is thinking about you. Even if you forgot, the other person is thinking about you. So Krishna has suhrit to Arjuna, spoke heavy words in the Bhagavad Gita. And here, he's taking Yudhishthira. It's a very beautiful episode, right? I'm going to read this beautiful beautiful prayer from Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sutta Uvacha, this is for the first canto, 9th chapter, verse number 1. Iti bhita prajadrohat sarvadharma vivitsaya tato vinashanam pragad yatra deva pratopatat. Apatat, lying down or passing away. This Bhutakal is called Langalakal, Bhutakal of Patati, Apatat. So he had fallen down and he was just waiting for passing away. And in one sense, Bhishma Dev had no expectation. It wasn't that he was waiting for a grand reception. There's so much sincerity of purpose in what Bhishma Dev was doing. Yes, we make mistakes in our life, but what Bhishma Dev exemplified is the decisions that we make, we have to own up the decisions as well as the consequences. I mean, that's amazingly inspiring for me. To try to pretend to be holier than thou doesn't help. We make mistakes, but that integrity with which we are able to own up what we did and the consequences, that creates a sense of responsibility which can draw us closer to Krishna from one perspective. But from another perspective, it also sets the right example in the society. Because sometimes with our kids, we make mistakes. With our children, we make mistakes. We could make mistakes with those who are trying to guide. And from Bhishma Dev's point of view, yes, the entire Pandavas, they were put at stake. I mean, their life was put at stake so many times. I mean, Draupadi, how can someone forget what happened to Draupadi? Yet, the glory of Bhishma Dev was that he owned it up completely. To such an extent that when Krishna came with the chariot wheel, he actually bowed his hands. Yes, after that, he was yet ready to fight. So, Bhishma Dev was apatat, he was lying. And just imagine this beautiful scene. Why did he go there? So, Prabhupada writes in the purport beautifully, in this 9th chapter, as it is willed by Lord Krishna, Bhishma Dev will impart instructions to King Yudhishthira on the subject of occupational duties, as willed by Lord Krishna. And what is that will? That was exactly in the 8th chapter. So we are seeing the 9th chapter, but the 8th chapter has a summary of that episode, which several of you already alluded to, right? How Krishna tried to convince Yudhishthira Maharaj, but he was not able to. But Yudhishthira Maharaj, why would Krishna take Yudhishthira Maharaj to Bhishma, the same personality whom Krishna said you have to kill before if you want to win? Krishna told this to Arjuna clearly. If you want to win the war, you have to kill Bhishma. And now he's telling Yudhishthira, if you want your doubts to be dissipated, you have to go to Bhishma. It's amazing, right? Look at how flexible Krishna is. I mean, who cannot be attracted to Krishna by seeing such this transcendental, beautiful behavior? I mean, we hear how a devotee is just like salt, but how does a devotee get the inspiration to be like salt? By seeing this beautiful behavior of Krishna, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that willing to yield himself on one hand. No, you have to kill Bhishma. On the other hand, we must approach Bhishma, who is lying on the bed of arrows because of Krishna's guidance to Arjuna in the first place. So, coming back to this, we are going to just absorb ourselves in this beautiful. Sometimes we try to find very linear paths in our life, and we think, why doesn't it work? Why linear paths? What I did earlier, I'm trying that same thing, it's not working. So when we become fruitive and sometimes autopilot, you want to do something, you have seen result, I replicate it, I don't get it. Often we are very used to an assembly line, production that we see around us. You put card in the machine and you get a bottle of water. So you expect that all the time. But in relationships, that's not how it works. You've seen at home, the same dish you make one day, prabhuji is happy. Another day you don't see that smile. What happened? So this is because we're not just dealing with objects, we're dealing with relationships. And in relationships, what matters is not just what I get. What matters is where are we going? My Guru Maharaj, Radha Maharaj often makes this point. Can we graduate ourselves from I to we? And Krishna is exemplifying that. He is not concerned with whether he is able to give the knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead obviously is a source of all knowledge. Vedanta Veda Videva Chaham. Yet he is very happy that Bhishma Dev is speaking now. That let divine knowledge be enlightening everyone's hearts. Asato ma satkamaya. So, with this, one aspect of this context, which I try to present, is the relationship between Krishna and Bhishma Dev, right from the beginning of the war to how it is at the end of the war. In fact, it's very interesting. Yudhishthira, Sthira, one who is Sthira in Yuddha is Yudhishthira. Right? So before the battlefield began, Yudhishthira was never confused. In fact, there's a very interesting episode where Yudhishthira goes and he actually is approaching Bhishma Dev. And Arjuna is wondering, what is happening here? Is he going to surrender himself? Krishna says, wait and watch. And Yudhishthira actually bows down, touches the feet, and asks Bhishma, how can we kill you? That's how stable Yudhishthira was before the battlefield. But that same Yudhishthira is melting down after the war. So he was very skilled in Yuddha. Just to understand why the name itself came up. And he asked Drona how he can be killed. I mean, Bhishma had to finally guide Yudhishthira. And he in fact took the Vijayashri, the blessings of being victorious in the battlefield from both of them before the war. It is exactly following Krishna's guidance, Krishna's directions. That same Bhishma, in the middle of the war, this beautiful episode where Krishna is lifting this Rathanga Pani. There's a very beautiful few verses. I'll just chant and maybe you can repeat after me. This is a beautiful scene in which Bhishma had taken a vow to kill the 5 Pandavas. I mean, in fact, vow in the sense he had these arrows. And Duryodhana did not trust. So you know the story, how those 5 arrows were lost by Duryodhana because he didn't trust Bhishma. And the next day, Bhishma was fighting as if he just devoured everyone. And Krishna had to intervene. Krishna had taken a vow that he will never lift any weapon. Despite that, he lifted a weapon. And he was rushing towards Bhishma. So that is the Rathanga Pani. Govinda Govinda Hare Murare, Govinda Govinda Mukunda Krishna. Govinda Govinda Rathanga Pani, Govinda Damodar Madhuri. You can sing this beautiful bhajan. This beautiful lines. Govinda Govinda Hare Murare. Govinda Govinda Mukunda Krishna. Govinda Govinda Rathanga Pani. Govinda Govinda Rathanga Pani. Govinda Damodar Madhavi. Govinda Damodar Madhavi. Rathanga Pani, that beautiful scene for Bhishma Dev also invoked his Virya Rasa, chivalrous Rasa, which was very natural for him to relate to with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now we come to the next part. Yes, Krishna, we saw how glorious and magnanimous his kindness toward devotees is. Sometimes we wonder, why this devotee got this special favor. But Krishna always knows what is best for everyone. Tamal Krishna Maharaj once recounts that, Prabhupada had kept some pearls inside a drawer, and he kept that drawer inside a drawer, and he kept that drawer inside another drawer, and then he kept it inside another drawer. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, why are you doing this? And then Prabhupada says, to keep the honest honest. In the sense that the arrangement was made because those who are honest will not want to steal or anything. But you also have to facilitate that they don't deviate from their path. So Krishna will also facilitate. Sometimes he will chastise his devotees. He will take the chariot wheel to punish Bhishma because he cares for Bhishma Dev. But he also cares for Bhishma Dev, and therefore what? We come to the next part. How Krishna glorified Bhishma Dev. He cares. He cares, therefore he punishes. He cares, therefore he glorifies. So it's explained, just to see the chief of the descendants of King Bharata, Tatra Brahmarshayas sarve Devarshayascha sattama Rajarshayascha tatrasan Trashtum Bharata Pungavam. Bharata Pungavam. Pungavam means chief. To see the chief of all the Bharatas, who all came? Tatra Brahmarshayah. Who are the Brahmarshis? By example of Brahmarshis, Vashishta Muni. So Brahmarshis came, Devarshis came, Rajarshis came, along with Krishna. And we all know. Actually, whenever Krishna comes, everyone comes along. And practically, we've seen the story of Bahulashva Sutadeva. How, when Krishna went to both places, Bahulashva Sutadeva. And when he goes to Sutadeva was a simple Brahmana. He is surrounded by all the sages, the chariot. Krishna is going, so everyone joins him to glorify Sutadeva. So here, to glorify Bhishma Deva, everyone has come along with Krishna to hear from Bhishma. So this is the other aspect, how Krishna is very keen to glorify his devotees. Sometimes we become envious of another person. There are multiple reasons we may experience envy. Right? And have you seen crabs? Crabs, if they are in the basket, do you find any of the crabs going out of the basket? What happens? One pulls on the other, right? And just now we discussed how Krishna himself is more conscious about the family, about everyone, than the fact that he is giving knowledge. Right? Something to be caused. On the other hand, the crab mentality is that neither will I go out, nor will I let other person go out. So, what we call sankuchit, very shriveled up thought process. Very shriveled up. Nothing beyond me. And that we find in Duryodhana. When he loses Karna, his friend, he says, what a mistake I made by befriending Karna. Right? So that's how I'd rather die trying to be a king than act as a subordinate to someone who's worthy of being a king. That is Duryodhana's mindset. But here, Krishna, he is now going to any extreme to glorify Bhishma Deva. Now, why do we experience envy in our heart? Well, one certain reason we understand is just because of being myopic, very short-sighted, not thinking about the big picture, only thinking about me and mine, only concerned about this point in life and not the future. Right? And Srila Prabhupada, you see, he was willing to help the different mathas, Gaudiya Matha. In so many ways, as a businessman, he was happy to assist. And then when the time came, went alone on Jaladuta. And then a time came when money started flowing. So much flexibility that he also received worship on behalf of the entire Sampradaya. And this is the flexibility a devotee shows when the devotee has this bigger vision. When it's not just got with I and mine. So when we see someone else receiving mercy, as we see in this special case, that same Bhishmadev whom Krishna came to kind of almost kill, he is glorifying. For a devotee, it's a cause of great happiness. Krishna says that the knowledge, divine knowledge, is revealed to one who is Anusuya. Anusuya. Jnana Vijnana. So, Yagyatma Mokshate Shubhat. So, Anusuya, how does one become free from envy? By understanding that Krishna is everyone's well-wisher, by appreciating that everyone has her or his unique role with Krishna which cannot be replaced. The role of Bhishma on the battlefield and the role of Bhishma as he's instructing Yudhishthira, both were unique to Bhishma, Bhishma Pitama. Yes, he felt he could have done otherwise. In fact, Krishna, he beats Bhishma Pitama, he meets Karna, he meets Draupadi, all of them before the battlefield. A very interesting conversation Krishna has. He tells Draupadi that, Draupadi, you're feeling so much, you're feeling pain in heart because of being discriminated against. And Draupadi said, yes, there's so much pain in my heart. I want to experience the blood of Dushasana and Duryodhana. And the vow Bhima had taken. Krishna tells Draupadi, please understand that there is a lot of other blood that will also flow. Her own sons. So that's when Krishna and Draupadi, the beautiful conversation, Krishna said, it's important to graduate from a feeling of revenge to a feeling of justice. Because if you are caught up in revenge, then you only think about yourself. Krishna told the same thing to Karna, by the way. Karna and Draupadi both had some reason for the battle. Krishna told Karna, yes, you've been discriminated against. Can you graduate from revenge to justice? Because justice is not just about me. Justice is, Draupadi, what happened to you? Should it happen to others? Anyone else? No. And because it should not happen to it, why did it happen? Because of certain perpetrators. So it can happen to anyone else. You're just one of the victims, one of the targets of this entire ecosystem. So the ecosystem has to be changed. And because of that, you look at how Draupadi was prepared. It was very painful that she lost her 5 sons, but she forgave Ashwatthama. Unfathomable. How could Draupadi have had the war fought if it was only a personal vengeance? It's impossible, right? Impossible. She speaks harsh, cutting words to Yudhishthira in the Mahabharata again and again. Actually, husband and wife should read that. That she would speak harsh, cutting words, but not again out of agitation. There was anger certainly, but also because she was concerned. There was concern in everything she spoke to Yudhishthira, and Yudhishthira would often hear her out and also would acknowledge her feelings, yet addressing them. Draupadi said, let's go, and why are we sitting in this forest? And Yudhishthira said, you're right. Draupadi said, there are 2 qualities. One is called Dhairya and the other is called Shaurya. Dhairya is patience and Shaurya is chivalry. And Draupadi says, you're expecting too much of Dhairya but no Shaurya. And Yudhishthira said, that's true. I must develop more Shaurya, but is this the right time? So this kind of discussions would take place. So you see how Draupadi, yes, there was pain, unfathomable pain for her. To the extent that Krishna said, I'm sorry for what you are experiencing. Yet, Karna, unfortunately, despite knowing whose mother is, despite knowing who's Krishna, and despite being guided by Krishna, Karna decided, no, my personal vengeance is more important than justice for others. Will you get justice by having Duryodhana as the crown prince? So I'm giving this to help us appreciate how graduating from I to a sense of we becomes very important. And that's when we can celebrate. When we are only stuck with I, it becomes very difficult to celebrate. Because there will be some one odd episode in life, when everyone claps for you. But no, you can take video recordings, you can create selfies out of that clapping incident. But how many times you will play? You'll get bored playing that. You'll play that in your mind. But when that celebration graduates from I to we, there is so much to celebrate. When you see another devotee receiving mercy, you're celebrating. When you see somebody being empowered, you're celebrating. And in that celebration, you will also feel empowered. Because strength is contagious. Krishna consciousness is contagious. Gratitude is contagious. In fact, most Indian language, we study a lot of Indian languages, right? So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Adhishtanam Tatha Karta Karanam Chaprita Vidam Vidachapta Teshta Daivam Chaivatra Pancham. Krishna says there are 5 factors for any activity. And the Karta, the person who's doing is only one of them. Then the language itself, how it gets embedded. Right? Hindi, when we say something, Kaam ho gaya, right? Yeah, what happened? Haath toot gaya. I don't know if you know Hindi, but you can use your own mother tongue. In Tamil, you may say that in your language. The Indian languages, especially because they are based on Sanskrit, the feeling of doer, I being only doer, in the language by design is only a small fraction. Right? You cannot say that in English, unfortunately. No, you don't say, you typically say, I broke my hand. Right? So, anyways, the point is how our behavior can also exhibit this feeling of I not being the only doer, I not being the only factor. Every instance in life. And therefore, Prabhupada was so insistent, that we have a spirit of family. Not just in spiritual consciousness level, certainly, but functionally also. Wanted devotees to work together, cooperate. Of course, it begins with our family units itself. And the temple, there are so many communities. That sense of family gives you also a sense of graduating beyond just myself. 5 Pandavas, they always had so much of, they were very assertive in stating a difference of opinion. You always find Krishna, when he's going, it's very interesting. Krishna, that beautiful picture you see of Bhishma Pitamaha, right? And Krishna was going as a Shanti Dut. Very beautiful conversation in the Mahabharata. I read it. Krishna's consulting the Pandavas. Should I go or not? What do you think? So amazing. Krishna consults the Pandavas all the time. And all the Pandavas have very different opinions. You can guess. Yudhishthira would have said, please go, that's a good idea. Arjun, of course, had a friendly relationship, so they had some discussion around that. Bhima said, what's the use? So much more delay. Let me get on to what I have vowed to. Nakula said a very interesting thing. He said, Krishna, I remember as a child, Mother Yashoda, what did she do? She tried to bind you. You broke earthen pot which had butter. You were distributing that with to your friends. You were so naughty. Mother Yashoda, what did she do? She tried to bind you. And what did she do? Nakula is telling the story to Krishna. He knows the story. Krishna knows us. And then what did she do? She got all the rope in Vraja. She tried to tie you. She could not tie you. Now, why is he telling the story to Krishna? We will make our effort, one finger, but there are 2 fingers. Your desire. If you have decided to go and give the best possible opportunity to Duryodhana, who are we to stop? It's such a beautiful conversation. You'll see the Pandavas always had conversations, which means there was no like my way or highway. Yes, the conversations were very refined. They were based on understanding, acknowledging each other's point of view. There was empathy in their conversation. Beautiful empathy. Therefore, they were one. Pandavas were always one. Draupadi had serious difference of opinions, but they were one. And the Kauravas, to have an opinion, you have to think, right? But I don't know whom they had leased their thinking to. They were totally, in fact, I don't know why this is. In fact, I want to see that slide. Okay. Sorry. This you can see this. Disconnected. What was I trying to say? Yeah, I was trying to say how the Pandavas had always refined conversations between themselves because they followed the process of samvad. There's a vad. Krishna says that one can have different kinds of discussions, but the most refined form is vada. Samvad is when you are samvad, and one characteristic of samvad is that you acknowledge the other person's point of view before presenting your point of view. And you'll find that in the Mahabharata. So the Pandavas show how there can be synthesis even with diverse experiences, because they were all unique. Each of them had her or his unique trait. They did not dissolve it. Krishna says, Swadharma Vichaveksha Navikampitum Arhasi. Shreyan Swadharmo Viguna Paradharma Panushtita. It's better to follow one's own Swadharma than trying to imitate someone else. And they did exactly that. The Kauravas, on the other hand, they had a total monopoly in the thought process as dictated by Duryodhana. Anyways, so this in summary is what I was trying to relate between the observations, the relating what was happening before the war, the kind of churning that was happening in Arjuna's mind before the war, which resulted in yoga. That was also yoga. See, the beauty is that in both situations, what came out was Krishna consciousness. Deeper connection with Krishna. But in very different and dynamic ways. On the other hand, it's not that Krishna did not chastise Arjuna. Krishna did not approve of Arjuna's decision not to fight, though he did in several ways, right? And appreciate Arjuna's consciousness, because the consciousness was of compassion. But that compassion resulting in inactivity was not approved by Krishna. On the other hand, again, there's compassion in the heart of Yudhishthira in this episode we see. But Krishna is addressing that compassion by giving him direction. Now you are in a position, the war has been fought, that means there's a sense of responsibility, Yudhishthira. And Bhishma is telling Yudhishthira, na rajyo na rajyasi, na cha dando jasa dandikaha. Dharme naiva praja sarve rakshatisma parasparam. He's saying that there was a time, O Yudhishthira, when there was no Rajya. You're saying that everyone should behave nicely. There was a time when everyone behaved nicely, that was Satya Yuga. There was no need of kingdom. There was no need of Raja. There was no need of Danda. Danda means punishment. And there was no need of laws. But he's saying today that's required. Because why? Dharme naiva praja sarve. Everyone was following dharma. Therefore, there was no need. Principles of Varnashram all existed, but the execution of Varnashram, the framework kept adapting itself as per requirement. So therefore, there was no king required then. But now a king is required. And therefore, Yudhishthira running away from the battlefield means putting to waste all the effort that was put so far. So in both, what came out, in one case, very nicely pointed out by devotees, Vishnu Sahasranam, Krishna consciousness. That was the result in both cases. There was yoga, connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, summarily, what I was trying to highlight for discussion, some of these salient points, is one, what are we more concerned about? About establishing Krishna's purpose or I being the instrument of Krishna's purpose? And do we want to be Dhritarashtra, whom Krishna said the problem is that you want to be the cause of Kaurava's prosperity? Or like Krishna so beautifully exhibited, are we more concerned that may there be knowledge, may there be dissemination of divine transcendental understanding, which enlightens the heart, which not just enlightens the heart, but elevates the heart, inspires everyone. What are we keen to have? And therefore we find Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did the same thing. He could have compiled so many literature, but he was so happy to see the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan compile the literature and guide the common masses. To the extent that Namacharya Haridas Thakur, and he was asking, Haridas, what is the fate of all these plants? What is the fate of these animals? Haridas Thakur says, I have full confidence in your holy name. Just by hearing your holy names, they will all be liberated. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving credit to others. Why? Because the Supreme Lord is exhibiting and instructing us indirectly. What we can be more concerned about is not just whether I am the instrument, I am the cause rather, but that Krishna's desire is fulfilled. And yes, I can play a role in that. I may have a significant role to play in that. I may have an insignificant role to play in that. But ultimately, from Krishna's point of view, every role that everyone plays is significant. So therefore, what Krishna has given me, I gratefully accept without any pride. Because for Krishna, it may be great. But for me, it's given by Krishna, it's a gift. So that was the first point I was trying to share with you, my own humble thoughts. The second point is this: for this consciousness to take place, it's very important for us to elevate ourselves from being just centered around myself to a feeling of we. That point of graduation, we took so many examples and tried appreciating, how downfall happens on one side when one is just centered on oneself, and on the other hand, how there is sankirtan, there is desire, divine transcendental desire to continuously glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, including what is happening in Golok Vrindavan eternally. And one is more concerned about Krishna and his relationship. There's a very interesting discussion in one of the literature. It says that, in fact, the process of Krishna consciousness is where, instead of I being important, the relationship with Krishna becomes more important. Because when Krishna is pleased, everyone is pleased. So with this humble note, very grateful again that all of you gave me a chance to share some of my thoughts with all of you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. You can please guide what should be the next thing. If we can take questions. Please, questions or comments, more than that. Yes, Prabhu. From? Yeah, so this is what Krishna guided Draupadi and Karna. Draupadi had pain in her heart and therefore she wanted to make sure the Kauravas are punished. Now that could be revenge if the entire transaction is limited to me, to her. But Krishna guided her into thinking, what about so many other women? What about the state of affairs that will be if Duryodhana is in power. So therefore, Duryodhana's punishment is not just for me, for her, but for all other women who might have to suffer like her. That is justice. Does that make sense, Prabhu? Karna, on the other hand, same thing. Karna felt he was discriminated against. Krishna said, if there's value in what you're saying, why not work towards a system such that everyone gets due respect? If there's value in what you're saying. Honestly speaking, Karna had such, perverted desires. I mean, everywhere you can find it everywhere in Mahabharata. And always a desire to show off his charity. Always the showing off was always the thing. I be the center. Basically. More important than charity was I giving the charity. Right? So, but Krishna advised him. I mean, again, graduating from the feeling you felt that you were discriminated against, think about others who are discriminated against. Therefore, paradukha dukhi. Vaishnava is actually paradukha dukhi. Like when you see others' distress, you feel that as your distress. And therefore, Prabhupada, when he saw hunger in around any temple, like in Mayapur, he said immediately, no one should go hungry around it in ISKCON temple. Now that's really manifestation of compassion. Right? So it can be from revenge to justice. It can be from a sense of satisfaction to a sense of celebration for everyone. I am satisfied, but what about others? So growing that circle, like ripples from oneself to actually everyone that one is connected to, the sense of gratitude. Does that make sense, bro?
You said Duryodhana was made a mistake by preparing karma.
So the statement was basically that Duryodhana, Karna had this kavach, right? And this Duryodhana used to believe that this kavach of Karna is going to protect him. But when Indradev, the father of Arjuna, came down and as a Brahmana begged that kavach for Karna, yes, I mean he keeps saying that I have given vow to my friend. I don't understand what happened to that vow to his friend when Indra came. Right? So he says, I am fighting with this side, with Duryodhana, because he was such a nice fight to me. But all that flew out of the window when Indra came, right? And Indra said, of course, he had to prove himself to be the biggest, greatest Dharmic. So he removed it and gave. So this is an example. So there are many things like this that happened. Karna had also given a vow to Mother Kunti that only one of your sons will be killed. Now, later on, when Duryodhana came to know about all of this, obviously, incrementally he came to know about all of this. That's when he regretted. I mean, I thought he was only fighting for me, but he had so many other, commitments. So when you are so self-centered, you don't want any commitment from anyone else to any third person, right? So that's when he said, "What a mistake I made by befriending her." Then
It's amazing class. I think the question is, so you said that we have to graduate from I to B. So I was thinking that to know what ultimately Krishna wants, intelligent amount of spiritual maturity is required. So I see myself that don't have that level of spiritual maturity. Ultimately, that you are practicing doing Krishna. So in that situation, how is it?
So what I have been so inspired by every arrangement Prabhupada made was, you arrange your day in such a way that you are preparing for death. Early morning you wake up, do Mangalarati, chant in the early morning hours, right? Now, Prabhupada facilitated all of this so that gradually, without our being constant, without our even noticing, our lifestyle is changing. You see the beauty? Now, and Prabhupada did amazing things. I think all of us responsibly should also contemplate on additional steps we can take so that this collective feeling increases. Because the spirit was given by Srila Prabhupada, by all the acharyas. Now, how we incorporate it in our lives, Prabhupada, I mean, Shaman Prabhu made one of our triple brahmacharis made an interesting point that, because the West, they didn't know what is a family. Prabhupada, he instituted the first wedding, right, to create a sense of family. He actually brought them together. So a family system is actually meant to help realize what it means to go beyond oneself. For example, being in a community is to help one realize what this means to go beyond oneself. Consciously in a day, we can ourselves probably take some steps where we actually go into the background. Like I gave this example of the torch, right? Now, it's a very illustrative example where either you are showing the way or you're showing yourself. So even the steps we take every day, whether it's sharing Krishna Katha with others, whether it is doing a service, maybe make those small efforts where I can experience what it means to be just insignificant, just insignificant. And as was, as we hear, devotee is like a salt. When you have a preparation, nobody appreciates the salt in the prasada. Oh, salt is perfectly. You make notice when salt is out of proportion. Salt is, either less or more. But otherwise, it's some inconspicuous. So, from a vyavahar, from a behavior point of view, making small efforts, conscious efforts in this direction, I personally have found can be very helpful.
Can you give some examples?
For example, when we actually perform any service and we are reporting, whether it's to Guru, whether it's to Krishna, maybe when Srila Prabhupada would tell Yamuna Mataji, go to Krishna tent, the veg tent, to prepare a report. Now imagine that you are reporting to Krishna what services were accomplished, but now imagine reporting not just what were accomplished, but who have played an instrumental role in getting that to be to the point of accomplishment. Small, it would be a book distribution, right? I mean, I might have impressively spoken and distributed a book, but what it took for BBT to produce the book, what it took for all those books to be translated, and rendered, shipped. So sometimes just contemplating on who all have played, have orchestrated their roles as per Krishna's desire, of course, and getting something accomplished. So, I would say even the language we speak, that's what I was talking about. I mean, I find, the use of Sanskrit, Indian languages, there's very interesting traits about how they're designed. I mean, we can get into more detailed discussion, but the way we speak can also play an important role. I did, and I've seen my Guru Maharaj, he says, I prefer you when you say we. But just going beyond replacing I with we, but the way we speak also can make a difference on what we communicate. Right? And I remember when my wife once went to my Guru Maharaj and said, I don't deserve my husband. He's God. Obviously, I must have been very proud about it. But Maharaj made a point. You don't deserve him. He doesn't deserve you. But that is Krishna's arrangement. Now, being very conscious of such simple, it's a fact, which might just get eclipsed, which might not be very prominent in our minds, right? So, being grateful to, or maybe I would say even parents who have made this possible. He asked Brahmanand Prabhu after sannyas to offer prostrate obeisances and to his mother, I believe, mother. So, and the Vedic culture actually has given this facility, bowing down, touching, elders' feet. Deva Divija Guru Pragya, Pujanam Shaucha Bhagyavam, Brahmacharya Ahimsachan, Shariram Tapo Uchyate. So many Sharira Tapa is there. Then Mana Prasada, Saumyatvam, Thairyam, Atma Nigraha, Bhava Samshuddhi, Tyekas, Tapo Mahasamchya. Again, Adudvegadaram Vakyam, Satyam, Priyakam Chayam. Swadhyaya Visanam Chaiva Vangmayam Tapochyate. So the austerities of the mind, body, and speech. Speech, we give some examples similarly for the body. We take some austerities voluntarily. Mind, again being satisfied. Being satisfied is an austerity of the mind. Not seeking that additional gratification, right? But being satisfied. So again, I'm just trying to share a few I'm sure devotees here would have notion to offer. You would have a notion to offer. But sometimes, you get credit for some seva and you're yearning for more, but maybe saying that, boss. This is very kind. This is very kind that the words you have spoken, that have been spoken by the devotee. But let me pass this on to all those who have made this possible. And it's a fact. I mean, we are not just doing, it's not playing mental games. You see, it is actually fact. We are only a small link in that long chain that made it possible. Is that helpful, Prabhu? Correct.
So I have two questions. One is, where did Krishna know? What was the whole point in discussing with all the Pandavas whether should or not? Like, of course, Nakula said the whole story behind. He recited the whole story that you will never win. You do whatever you wish. By setting an example of Krishna binding. But then, what was the whole point of Krishna asking or taking consultations from Pandavas when he actually knows what is it? Was he testing? The Pandavas?
Why did Krishna ask this question? I mean, as I remember, Krishna asked, "What do you think?" Something like that. Right? So you'll find this in many places. Krishna consulting. So, question in general is why should Krishna consult anyone? Right? Why can't he just take a unanimous decision? He knows. Anyways, he has decided that. So. But it is not like that, right? When Krishna wants to do something, he also wants his devotees to be happy about what he is doing. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted to take sannyas. I mean, he did talk to devotees. He was presenting his reason. And he went to his mother Sachi and said, "What? I have not been an obedient son. I have not been, I didn't perform the duties of a son properly." Why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to say that? I mean, obviously he took sannyas for a very high purpose. Yet he is apologizing to Mother Sachi. You know that, right? And he is even consulting. Where should I stay? Jagannath Puri, the whole decision to stay in Jagannath Puri came out of this discussion, right? It's not too close, not too far. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ultimately, he is more concerned about the satisfaction of his devotees. How satisfied are his devotees in that loving relationship. So it's not just about getting something done. I mean, at home also, you get something done. But people may not be happy at all. You've seen that? But there may be another way of gracefully accomplishing it, not getting it done, but accomplishing it, in which relationships are nourished. So I think the process, it's not just about, I mean, again, I've heard this beautiful statement from Radhanath Swami Maharaj. He says, it's about, loving people and using things rather than, using people and loving things. So it's not just about achieving certain targets, but in that, how are the relationships being fulfilled, nourished? Is that helpful? So and you see, there's so much. I mean, why Krishna had to do all this with Mother Yashoda? You can ask the same question. Krishna wanted to relish. He's Rasalaj. There's rasa in all of this, right?
So you are saying that Krishna's samadhi, like no one can separate Krishna from the world. So is Krishna's love biased? Like for people who are not spiritually mature, his love biased?
Is Krishna's love biased? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, as one approaches me, I reciprocate accordingly. So in that sense, not biased. But then and Krishna says, at the same time, if someone is especially attracted and drawn to me, I give myself to him. So in that sense, He's still honoring the previous statement. It's not refuting the fact that Krishna reciprocates as one approaches, right? It's about, Ayurveda, the principle is you can digest properly when there is appetite, right? Otherwise, the food what you eat can cause roga. So therefore, having good hunger is important for eating, for digestive fluids, the enzymes to be effective. So similarly, when there is greed, eagerness in the heart of a devotee, then actually the drop that Krishna gives for the devotee, that drop itself is an ocean. So when we say Krishna has been so kind, a devotee says Krishna has been so kind, and Prabhupada could have complained 3 heart attacks. Prabhupada never complained about that. You see any of Prabhupada complaining about 3 heart attacks? So Krishna was so kind upon me. So because the devotee is so eagerly wanting to receive, what Krishna gives actually is magnified by the devotee. Because there is love in what the devotee is receiving. It's not just measuring, bean counting, right? So actually, what you ask is very interesting. From Krishna's perspective, yes, he wants to give, but Krishna tells the gopis, so beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, I cannot repay your. I cannot reciprocate with your love. So you please be satisfied. I can't repay your debt. Be satisfied with your love. That's the extent to which Krishna goes with gopis. So it's in fact, devotee sees Krishna's grace with such sense of gratitude that in some sense, devotee further glorifies the mercy that Krishna gives. Does that help, Prabhu? And we see it actually any genuine relationship in this world. It happens when there's gratitude, you relish what little has been given you more than what you would have ordinarily. Right?
Should I add?
Yes, please.
There's a beautiful illustration given by one of the prabhuji, So God is just like the sun outside. So if we want to feel the warmth, sun is for everyone, but if we want to feel the warmth of the sun, you have to go up to get the warmth. So, but like sun is for everyone. You have to, so if you want to feel the reciprocation, you have to.
And receive it. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Should we have a short kirtan?
Yes, GauraHari too.
Srila Prabhupada ki. Thank you so much. Sorry.